The Curses and the Covenants, A History Weaver Mystery, Book 2, by Connie Worden, read by the author. Chapter 10. The first weekend after the start of school, I pushed hard and finished slapping the white paint up on the motorhome cupboards. With everything painted white or light pastels, the dark, dated look of the motorhome had turned into a bright, cozy little home. I unpacked all the belongings I'd need for living in the space into it and was ready to take up residence. I got the insurance to drive the beast, as I'd taken to calling it, and cautiously made my way on the back roads to the Eversley Road property. I'd have to get more confident driving it, as I'd be taking it to the RV site to fill the water tanks and empty the other tanks regularly, but it would take some time. The size made driving the motorhome very unlike driving my compact economy car. Backing up was the worst part, although fortunately I didn't have to contend with a trailer and hitch doing its own thing. I'd only once in my life attempted to back up anything on a trailer, and I was grateful the motorhome was all one unit. I might have liked more space for living than the 28 feet the beast afforded me, but I didn't want any more space than those 28 for driving. However, the beast and I both arrived safely at our new home. I parked at the spot I'd chosen as the most level and easily accessible and shut off the engine. I hated to admit it, but a little lost feeling started creeping in. Now what? What was I going to do with myself? I did the few small tasks I needed to get the house set up and ready to go. I plugged into the temporary electric receptacle installed in my newly erected power pole and turned on the propane tanks for the fridge, stove, and heater. But everything else was done and ready. For such a small living quarters, it felt too empty. I'd been used to living alone. I'd have to get used to it again. I'd adjust. But part of me missed Ma's constant presence. And living alone in the country was a different ballgame than living alone in a one-bedroom basement suite in the city. I'd never really felt alone there. There was always noise and activity just outside on the street. But here there was only silence. Get out and take a walk around the property, I told myself. Go enjoy the beauty. I did explore the boundaries of my land again and tried to soak up the view in the glorious early fall weather of that Sunday afternoon. The lost feeling wouldn't quite subside, however. Dinner time, I told myself, checking my phone. I wasn't really hungry, but cooking my first meal in my new house on wheels would give me something to do. There was some fun to be had in learning how to use my new kitchen and preparing the food. I knew the novelty would wear off quickly, but for now it was a bit of an adventure. As I sat down to eat with only a book for company, the silence seemed deafening. When it grew dark, I gave in. I got in my car and headed for Ma's and a cup of coffee. I couldn't even handle my first evening alone in my new place. That was going to have to change. Back to school on Monday and the nerves flaring again after the weekend off. I reminded myself to be patient with myself. I was going through a lot of adjustment all at once. I had to remember that. It would just take some time. But the first week had gone better than expected, and hopefully the second week would be even better. All the positivity didn't quite manage to quell the roller coaster feeling in my stomach, but maybe it helped a little. Larry's familiar face in the staff room at coffee breaks and passing in the hallways helped as well. He was always friendly and ready to help with advice or stories of his experiences with the classes I was teaching. His suggestions were welcome, and I noticed that we were often chatting over a cup of coffee in the break room. I asked him what he knew about Julia and her story, and he lifted his eyebrows enigmatically and said, "I'll let you draw your own conclusions on that one." But Julia seemed more interactive in class than she had the first week. I wondered if it was the one-on-one sessions that were helping her feel more comfortable. I wasn't prepared for her to crack her brittle facade wide open, however, our third week together. She'd gradually started talking more and more in our sessions, but I was taken aback when she suddenly said, apropos of nothing, "Did they tell you that my brother hurt me, and that's why I'm in therapy?" I swallowed my shock and kept my face and voice even-keeled as best I could. No one's told me anything about that. Do you want to tell me more about it?" Julia looked away out of the window as she said, "Not really." It was impossible to tell from the expressionless face what she was really thinking and feeling. "Whenever you're ready to talk about it, you can tell me whatever you'd like to," I told her. "You should know, however, that this is something that the proper authorities have to deal with. I can't keep actual abuse a secret between you and me. Student confidentiality doesn't go that far." "There's no point telling anyone. They all know. Nothing's been done about it." Her brown eyes looked cold and dead as they met mine, maybe for the first time. "Does your brother still live with you?" I questioned. Had nothing really been done? This was an outrage, if so. "Yeah, he does. I told you, nothing's being done about it. But I have to go. That's my mom in the parking lot waiting for me." Julia abruptly snatched her backpack off the floor by her chair and was out the door of my office in a single fluid motion. I didn't try to call her back. I needed to think. Out my window, I could see Julia approach a tall, slender blonde, probably in her mid-40s, just getting out of an expensive-looking car. Even at that distance, I could see the perfectly made-up face. Classy. That was the word for her mum. The expensive clothes matched her expensive car. Julia's unkempt appearance must have made her mom crazy. Maybe that was the point of it. She greeted Julia with a hug that Julia submitted to limply without any return on her part. Then she draped an arm around the girl's shoulders as they walked to the car together, the older woman apparently chattering brightly to the younger, with, unsurprisingly, no response from Julia. What is the real situation there? I wondered, in light of the bombshell Julia had just dropped on me. Speaking of which, I needed to go and talk to Edie Gallant before she left for the day and discuss the next steps to take in our plan of action. I tapped on the door to her office that was ajar, putting my face around the open door as I did so. "Oh, Angie, good. I was hoping to catch up with you today and touch base, find out how your first weeks are going now that you've had a chance to settle in." "They're going well, I think, but that's not what I'm here to talk to you about. I don't want to beat around the bush. I'll get right to the point. Julia just admitted to me that her brother has abused her. She says nothing's been done about it. I know this has to be reported. What do we do next?" Edie sighed a sigh of resignation. "Come in and close the door behind you. Take a seat." After I'd done so, she continued. "Last year, she told the school counselor that it was the neighbor boy. Now she's saying it's her brother. I suppose we have to open another investigation into it then. Last year, the authorities were notified after she told her story to the counselor, and the poor kid next door to the Fairchilds that she claimed abused her was questioned and probably terrified and traumatized. He's a year younger than Julia, even. So as a minor, it wasn't dealt with as it would be with an adult suspect. Social services looked into it and it went no further, but all the same, I'm sure it was awful for him." "For him? What about her?" I was shocked at Edie's attitude. "Are you saying you think he didn't do it?" "I didn't want to prejudice you against Julia. I knew you'd soon run up against it for yourself, but the reason her mother has her in therapy and counseling, besides the attitude problem and her failing grades, is that how can I put this gently? Never mind, I don't think I can. She's a pathological liar." Edie looked at me significantly while I digested the information. "Are you sure? I mean, what if she's telling the truth?" "Believe me, it's not just this one issue. It's many. She's told so many tall tales around school that she really has no friends left because no one believes anything she says anymore." "Oh. That could explain why I never saw her with any of the other girls. I thought she was just as unfriendly with them as she was in general, but perhaps there was more to it." The situation with the neighbor boy was investigated and the details she gave didn't add up at all. His parents could confirm that the neighbor boy had been nowhere around where and when she said it happened. Her parents also provided some evidence that contradicted her story. The matter was dropped. I'll have to report this new incident, of course, but to be honest, I hope nothing comes of it. What if this is the real story, though? What if she's telling the truth this time? I mean, it could explain the other acting out. Well, again, it will have to be investigated, I suppose, but I hope it's handled very carefully. Poor George. That's her brother. He's only 14. Nice kid. Very different from Julia. I can almost guarantee you this is just another one of her attention-getting stunts. She does seem to crave making a scandal." I didn't know what to think. I certainly hadn't expected to encounter any circumstance like I found myself in the middle of now in this job. I hadn't even thought through any plan on what to do other than report any suspected abuse to my superiors, who were also duty-bound to report it to the proper authorities. But this was a tricky situation, given Julia's loose relationship with the truth, if that wasn't just the principal's judgment of her. However, I had no reason to believe Mrs. Gallant had any kind of vendetta against Julia. From the sounds of things, Julia was the one with the problem. There was a little gnawing doubt in the back of my mind, though. It wasn't the kind of thing we could afford to get wrong. And what if the neighbor boy had been her cover story for the actual truth? What if her behavior was all a result of the abuse? Still, her 14-year-old brother, a year younger than her? The idea did seem unlikely. Could he be the scapegoat for the real abuser? I drove home deep in thought. I couldn't shake the heavy feeling all the rest of the evening, especially with no one to distract me from myself all alone in the beast. Maybe I'd have to get a pet. I had to find some way to leave my work at the door of the school when I left it. But this was a rather exceptional circumstance. Of course, it would be bound to bother me. Besides, I'd found myself starting to care about the 15-year-old loner. Well, there was nothing else for me to do other than be on the lookout for signs that Julia was lying, or telling the truth. I'd done what my job required by reporting her accusation. Now I just had to leave that part of it alone. It wasn't up to me.